Hey, hey, hey! How are you folks doing? Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Just getting things underway, waiting for the couch pot to fire. Hope you are coming back from a great weekend, wherever you happen to be. Those of you in the United States, you might have been celebrating Independence Day. If you're up there in Canada, you might have had Canada Day. Had a long weekend. Elsewhere, there are holidays everywhere on the planet. I can't personally keep up with all of them, but I hope that you enjoyed them wherever they happen to be. Um, yeah, it's coming along, Abraham. Abraham's asking for where this is. This, but it'll be fired up here just shortly. That's why we always have the pre-show where we just kind of chill out and wait for Couchbot to deliver the goodness. Got a pretty busy load this morning. New pragmatist Charlie is here. Chelsea has a number of submissions. Kicking back into gear. Waiting to see Katie. I'm not trying to pick on you, Katie, but I'm waiting to see you because we've got a busy month ahead. All right, busy month. Let's see who else we got. Oh yeah, Abraham's dropping in because that's why he's looking for the feedback loop. Abraham's dropping in for a quick peek, so we will take a look at his work as well. Abraham's working on, I believe, he's working for some startup and they've got a project and what have you. Anyway, we're gonna take just a second to get this thing underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop, where I take your calls rapid fire. Basically, you submit your work and I give you my feedback on them. Today we've got Chelsea, Charlie, and Abraham in the mix coming off of a holiday weekend. And I'm always never quite sure what to expect after a holiday weekend, just between you and me, because, frankly, sometimes everybody just wants to chill out and go to the lake. Not a lot of people went to the lake this year, and that's good. I hope wherever you did go, you're wearing a mask. But you know what? Let's dispense with the banter and jump right into it. Provided my screen switcher will work today. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So first out, we've got Chelsea here. And Chelsea is, she submitted links to her user interview script. She's got calls coming up. So okay, and then so she's got a portion of her script here, and then she's got her survey results. I want to look at the survey results first because I want to take a second to kind of mow through how you can go about identifying who to talk to. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of clean this up here so that we can see what the questions are. It does look like your survey got a little long, Chelsea, but being that you got so many responses, it clearly wasn't a big issue. Let's go ahead and wrap that. Okay. And now the next thing I want to do is I only want to focus on the people who said you can contact them. So thank you for participating in this survey. Do I have your permission to contact you? I'm going to, I'm going to sort Z to A because I just want the yeses. So now I've got all the yeses sorted out here on top and the no's down below. I'm going to go ahead and color code all the no's so that we understand that those are folks that we're not going to be reaching out to. Okay, so our main group here that we're concerned with is anybody who does not have that yellow color. Now, from there, we've got the, and I guess I could have color coded this green, but we're going to add a lot of colors here. Are your daily activities impacted by the closure of public schools? This is another way that we could we could sort sheet by Z to A, And you'll notice that there are quite a few yellows that also fit into this, but we're mostly interested in the folks that are in this group that said, yes, you can contact me, and yes, my daily activities are impacted by the closure of public schools. So that gives us 27, or well, actually 26 if you take the first column, first row away here. So, come on, mouse, wake up. I apologize, my mouse just decided it was going to fall asleep. Okay, well, I'll have to do it this way. Anyway, we're going to come over here because I don't want to get into the contact information for those folks. Fill information. We're going to color these green, okay? So anybody with this color green is somebody that we are interested in talking to. The yellows and, I've even got this batch of white no's. Those are ones that were not all that important to us. Now we can begin to sort this by another color code, and I'm going to try to restart my mouse here. I'm not sure why it has picked this very moment to disconnect or become unuseful. It's like the battery just died at this inopportune moment. Luckily, I got a trackpad. So the next mix here is probably I want to identify my teachers that I can talk to. So I'll sort this A to Z, and now I've got this group of green teachers and parents. Okay, so my teachers, I'll color code them here, and I'll probably give them, I'll give them like a light blue. So again, we're going through, and we're and it looks like you've also pulled out some candidates here, which is fine. What I'm trying to do is show you a way to sort this out. Parents and guardians. So the green here again is parents and guardians who have said you can contact them, all right, and who have said that their daily activities are impacted. I'm going to make this blue as well. And anything in the blue are people that we're interested in talking to further, that have also said that they are interested in talking with us further. You do have some other people that fit in here that are in the green. Elementary school principal, administrator, private school student, after school program staff. So you've got a few others, but it's from this much smaller group that you have the ability to really begin focusing in. And now, like with teachers, it becomes pretty easy if you said, you know what, I want to know from my teachers, I want to know how younger students are dealing with it. Well, that means I want to talk to this one right here. She's 2nd to 4th grade. I want middle school. Well, you've got some options there. There's one there. There's another there, and they also teach the other grades. Another there and another there. And then, obviously, if you want high school, you've got a couple of options available to you. So this is pretty good. I do think that you have enough variety to push forward with your interviews. I think you've got the teachers, you've got the parents. It even looks like you've got at least one student who said you can contact them. So I think that you're in a good spot to move forward. With that said, I want to take a minute to take a look at your interview, and here you're kind of walking them through like why you're talking, what this is about, which is good. Now, it says here before we get into that, I want to learn a little bit more about your background. And this is fine. Where you're from, uh, you've got information, so you're going to refer back to the survey, and that's always important. Make sure before you start talking to them, make sure you have their profile in front of you. Um, the worst thing to do the worst thing in the world to do is to ask them a question that you've already asked them. So make sure to pull up their answers so that during the interview you can refer back to it. Now in the survey I saw that you said blank, and then you follow up on it. Um, the thing that I'm missing here is overall, like, yeah, I get it that you're getting into them and the details, and then you're asking very specific questions about um, the child and remote learning. What I'm interested in, one of the things I like about an interview is the surprises that you find along the way, and you need to ask some questions that are broader in scope to get them talking. The where are you from is great, but it doesn't necessarily impact the current situation. So a question that I might ask here would be, you know, since you know since since the schools have been shut down, can you walk me through a typical day in your household? And that gets them to go and everybody's household is handling this a little differently. But that is going to get them to talk about things that another family wouldn't, simply because they have different routines, different patterns. And that's going to lead to it's probably going to give you some answers for the main interview questions that you have here, and it'll allow you to use that as follow-up. Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that you said when you talked about remote learning. I want to follow up on that, and then you can dive into your questions here. But the big thing is you're probably going to discover a few things in their description of their daily activity, daily pandemic life in the household, that's going to spur a question. You're going to say, it's going to set off alarm. I can't predict what it will be, because that's the beauty of an open-ended question. It will take you places that you cannot predict. Your only job is to listen and be ready to follow up with something very specific to what they just said. Okay? So I would definitely get that in here between you've got your small talk and you're kind of getting them going. And in many ways, I could skip over some of the small talk and just jump right into the walk me through a day in the life. And one of the immediate follow up questions for a day in the life is, how different is that? How different is it now than it was from what it was before? Like, if you had to compare daily life now to daily life in January, how has it changed? Those are the types of things that will really get them to compare for you, and they'll begin to really see the differences themselves. So I would do that. Same thing here with essential workers. It comes back to daily life. What are some of the challenges you faced as an essential worker with school-age children? That's going to get you into the daily life. But I still want to know, like, how are they solving this broadly around the fact that they've got to go to work? How do they make it through? Yeah. So otherwise, I think this is pretty good. Just get them to contextualize, like, what has this meant to them? How has this impacted them, without asking them, and without directly asking them, hey, how has this impacted you? Get them to talk about how it's impacted them. All right. So let's move on. I keep wanting to use this mouse, which is basically useless at this point. So useless that I'm going to take a second and plug it in. Oy. Okay. Now I'm grabbing for a ghost mouse. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Charlie's gone through, and it's interesting. Charlie has his portfolio underway. So Charlie's coming to us. He's been through a boot campy type program before, and just needs to level up. So we're working with Charlie on building out his case study for this Pandora home screen redesign. And I got to be honest, I winced right away, Charlie, because when I was reading through this, I have this visceral reaction on any sort of quote redesign. A lot of times you'll see this on like Dribble. Oh, I redesigned Spotify, and it drives me nuts because it's like, why? What was the issue? Here, at least, you put it into the context of a friend of mine was having a problem with this, and I said, hey, I should totally try to redesign that. And I think that when you have a contextual problem you're trying to solve, that's a far better approach than just saying, I'm going to make it more spiffy. So good job there. As I went through this, there's a process to this. You're talking about your role. You're talking about the problem. The problem is the experience users have when logging into Pandora. The solution: discover and research. I don't have a setup. Like we get into what your role is pretty fast. I need some sort of introduction. I'm thinking about this from the perspective of, okay, I'm going to jump into the case study, and I'm going to see probably like your redesign, and then I'm going to see your role, and it's like, well, wait, no, I need to know what it is that you're what are we looking at, okay? So like we need like a paragraph up here that just explains what we're looking at. And I would flip this around. I would say the problem, the solution, my role, and then importantly, and this is something I talk about over here in this case study writing, which you can go to newpragmatic/case_study_writing, and you'll get to this this piece recently updated on audience, who you're writing the case study for, structure, how you should be organizing the case study, format, and then what you learned, okay? And this is really where you're missing a big chunk. Or entry level, mid career, late career, wherever you're at, you should have something that underscores what you learned in going through this project or this process. Now I see discovery research, I see initial research. You've said, hey, I want to make this more concise. User stories, testing, competitive analysis. We've got all these things. But what I haven't seen in here is, here's what this whole project taught me. And without that, like, I fell down on my face. When we tested this, it went wrong. I thought this would work, and here's why it didn't. Without that sort of revelation, the case study lacks teeth. Okay, anything that's in your portfolio, especially when you're early on, and you're over here in entry level, just getting your design career started. It's way more important for me to know what you learned. I still have to know, like, in any of these, the overview is always first. Like, explain to me what it is I'm looking at. Okay, great. Now that I understand what I'm looking at, tell me what you learned. I care less about your process, because guess what? Your process as an entry level, low beginner designer, you're not I'm not going to switch my process to match up with yours. You're going to switch your process to match up with mine. When you get mid-career, you may bring process with you that we adopt. We may look for alignment process in the hire. Late career, I'm just looking for you to lead. I'm looking for you to come in and kind of run the show. I can. You're a talking process machine. You're probably just showing me the highlights of your overview. Now, if you share like what you learned, I think that's a real bonus. A lot of late career designers, all you'll see in their portfolios is an overview. I think that's a mistake. I think that's a misstep, but that's where it's at. But you're over here, okay? So right here between overview and process, I need to really see what you learned. And right now, that part is missing. So what I'd like you to do is go layer that in, okay? I'd like a couple things. I'd like some sort of intro to kind of walk us through what we're looking at, broadly. Then I'd like you to go into the problem. I'd like you to take my role, move it underneath solution, and then add a what I learned section here before you get into discovery and research. And we're going to draw a big fat bar between those two so that we push discovery and research down, because there's different audiences that are going to come along and be interested in looking at your work. And one of those audiences is not interested in the really long case study. They want to get what they need to get and then get out. And those are the people that are sorting through, do we want to spend more time on this candidate? Okay? If you can tell them what you learned while going through the project very early on, if they don't have to hunt for it, you're going to do better off. Okay? So that I'd like to see that bit from you. Now Abraham is up, and Abraham included a video. It took me a minute because I didn't want to sit here and have you watching me watch a video for 6 minutes. But Abraham's got this. He's working for a startup, and they've got this flow that they're implementing. And I need to hide my screen. So there were a couple of things that came to mind, Abraham, when I was looking through this. And again, I'm lightly familiar with this. I'm not super familiar with this. There's a basic flow that says, I'm starting here. If I click on one of these, this is going to slide over, and the good morning screen kind of goes away. I am curious how we get. I'm going to guess if I click home, everything rotates back to this basic view. I could be wrong, don't know. But when we come over here into Allison Jones, we get the blood pressure. This expands. Recent activity, I can add a new note here, and that would clear out the alert. If I dismiss, that was one of the big things that I wasn't certain about, Abraham, is that it seemed to be that when to clear this alert, I have to enter a note, right? So what is the feedback that happens when I try to hit dismiss and I can't? I understand you mentioned in the video, you said that you're going to train the nurses that if you don't submit a note, they can't dismiss. But there needs to be feedback in the platform that does that, because at some point there's going to be a nurse that either forgets, or that there's going to be a new nurse that comes along and they're not going to know. And maybe the nurse that's training them is going to forget that little nugget. And then suddenly it's going to appear that the platform is broken. So, dismiss needs at least a tooltip, a feedback, a pop-up of something that says you must leave a note. Um, and I would say that if they try to dismiss it, I would just give them a field that says, please enter note for patient note to dismiss this alert. Um, so rather than saying, you must submit a note and then worrying that they can't figure out where that is, like, you know, give them, like, take over the screen, do a popover, something that gives them the prompt. Okay. It's kind of like not to make this into Twitter, but it's kind of like in Twitter, if you hit the tweet button anywhere, it just, like, instead of trying to take you to the feed, it just, like, takes over. I think that's the same basic thing you're doing here. Okay. And I've had many conversations. Melanie and I go around talking about business concepts that owe a lot to consumer concepts, and that would be one of those situations where it's an idea that we see in an everyday consumer app like Twitter that makes its way into an enterprise interface. The other thing, the one other thing that was bugging me was this concept that I'm going to scroll this little bitty thing, and I say that because I designed one of the first apps I designed. It was this iPhone app, and it had this little area that you couldn't scroll the whole screen. You could just scroll a little part of the screen. It's the stupidest thing ever. Like, why? Why would I do that? And I look back at this and I go, I don't want separate scroll zones. I just want the whole thing. I just want you to be able to scroll. And if you want to scroll, that's great. I don't want to hijack the scroll unless if I'm hijacking the scroll, give me all of this rather than just this. I mean, if you're bothering to hijack, and then from there, like, if I scroll, I could totally see taking over the whole screen. But like I'm not a big fan of the scrolling such a micro compartmentalized area. So I would highly advise against that. I just think it's gonna be frustrating. Particularly, it's fine if it's just like one or two lines here, but if this patient has 20 alerts and you're trying to, like, oh no, scroll, no, I expanded this and now the other one dropped off. Like, just give me the whole thing. This was interesting. I'm not sure it means a lot. Yeah, I'm not sure this just means a ton. Once these patients go away, that goes to alert. Like, do I really want to? Are they really going to select the next person with this row collapsed? I don't think so. But that's where you study usage, you test. And again, I think this is pretty good for the constraints that you've been placed under, and I think that's a fair. I think it's fair to say you've been placed under some less than ideal constraints, but I also want to acknowledge that there needs to be more testing done here before you can say that this is successful or this is not successful. Everything I'm offering here is hyperbole. Some of it's based on my like this bit here is based on my background, issues that I've had with designs like this in the past. The dismiss note, I always worry about feedback. I don't want something to, and I haven't seen it. Now, that's not to say that it's not here, okay? That's not to say that you haven't discussed it. I'm being brought into it cold, so I have to call it out as something that is missing. Also missing is, what does this look like when there is no recent activity? Like this is a new person, um, and they don't have activity yet. What are the empty states here? Um, what happens when there's only like one available patient and nobody's in progress? Like bring this down to explain like if the system is empty, what does it look like? Because that's going to be important to your developers. Like, there's going to be a situation where there aren't patients. There's going to be a situation where there isn't recent activity. What are those states? Okay, and that's going to do it. I would love to hang out here and go further, longer, and faster and stronger and all that. Looks like we're clear on the loop. If you're watching this, just know that you can participate just as easily as anybody else who's been here. All you got to do is sign up for the channel, newpragmatic.com, join the community, and you can jump right on in here. You'll get alerts. You'll get alerts for when we go live, every Monday through Friday. And then if you're looking for mentorship, know that that's what's happening over here. You can join along. Chelsea, Abraham, Rebecca, Eve, they're all in here, all getting feedback, all growing as designers, and we do this round the clock, 7 days a week. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am Chris Courtney. This has been the Feedback Loop for Monday, July 6th. Yeah, July 6th. I'll see you folks later. Take care.